Do you know that this was a request from my friend Louisa?
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Listen, if you're friends with us, you guys, you can just request. Anyway, so my sister's in Switzerland and my mom has COVID. And that means that I am on head home to mom duty.
Yeah.
Which is, really fine. I'm very happy to go and, be a good daughter. But I said we have a Trailblazer scheduled for later this week. And I said to Eric, I'm going to have to record from my childhood bedroom potentially. And which I recorded the Jude Devereaux episode from.
That's right.
And the Susan Elizabeth Phillips episode. And he was like, listen, here's what that room sounds like. And he gave me a list of a critique of my childhood bedroom sounds. And I was like, this feels weird that you remember this from 2 random episodes of the podcast. But that's why we pay him the big bucks.
That's right. He is the audiophile, and I am the complete dummy when it comes to those things. So,
welcome everyone to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romances and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor. And apparently this week we're doing a special request from Louisa, who we really like. So tell us.
Louisa Edwards, who is terrific. We love her contemporaries. I've talked about them on the podcast before. She wrote this killer chef series before chefs were a thing. So if you love chef romances and you haven't read those Louisa Edwards books, I think there are 6 or 7 of them. Boy, do you have a fun time.
She was really ahead of the curve on the chef.
She really was. That's the problem. Sometimes this happens in romance. Someone does it.
Yeah.
And the books are just terrific, but only a certain group of people find them. And then boom. Right. Chefs become a huge thing. And then it's so late and romance is so productive. Is that the right word? Prolific. I guess is what I'm looking for.
Is the word you're looking for.
Romance is so prolific that then there's so many chef books that no one thinks to go back and check for older chef books. But anyway, those are great. I think the first one is called Can't Stand the Heat, and it's great. And then there's so that's a series set in a New York City chef community, and then the second series is about a Top Chef style show. It's great.
Fun.
So reality TV before reality TV was
also
a romance thing.
Is there fake dating? Because then it's the trifecta.
Yeah, right. And then she also did, she wrote as Lily Everett a series of small town romances set on an island off the coast of I don't know, some idyllic southeastern something. And the island has wild horses and, everybody's sexy and there's lots of homecoming. There's a great Christmas book in that series with a soldier home and horses and a Christmas pageant. I mean, it just scratches all the itches of American Christmas nostalgia. So yeah, but on top of all of that, Louisa is just a freaking great person. And she texted me the other day and she said, hey, have you and Jen done an episode on cozy vibes, sweater vibes? I want fall books that are pumpkin spice themed.
Yeah.
But not
basically
spooky.
Chris Evans in a cozy sweater without the murder.
Yeah, without him being sort of an asshole. Sure. Yeah. You want that
in book form.
The vibe. You want the fisherman sweater. The When Harry Met Sally, through Central Park in the
fall leaves. Yeah.
And it's interesting because when you request that, of course, I think to myself, absolutely.
And then you think, I've never read an entire...
And then I've never read a book. But the directive was no spooky, nothing Halloween.
No, nothing Halloween on my list.
So I did not pick anything Halloween.
Just
as you all
strictly fall vibes.
We do a Halloween episode, and we do have one planned this year.
Can I, before we launch into this, we should have done this for banter, but it happened last night. Everyone knows I don't really watch TV. Not because I don't like it, but because I'm overwhelmed by it. And then when you don't watch TV for a long time, it's super overwhelming.
Well, where do you even begin?
Exactly. I just completely I just don't even
now,
know.
It's an embarrassment of riches. It's a nonsense thing, the way TV works now. It used to be you turn on the TV and Alf was on and you watched Alf. Everyone out there, once upon a time, there was a show called Alf. It was about an alien puppet. Oh, don't even. It's the weirdest thing. He ate cats.
I don't know. Either way.
Something about cats.
But last night, it was like 7 o'clock and I was so tired. And I was like, I can't fall asleep right now. So I'm going to put on the TV. This is like usually when I'm like just so exhausted. And I couldn't find anything because I got overwhelmed really fast. So I ended up watching Pretty Woman, which I have not watched in its entirety in a long time. And I'm going to tell you something, romance writers out there. You know how we say, like, okay, if you need to match like physical intimacy with emotional intimacy, if you would like to see that perfectly executed in a movie, that movie is perfect.
Sometimes the bad stuff is easier to believe.
Yes.
That moment where she tells him that story.
Yes.
And,
but I mean, just the
so
way
raw.
that, like,
Terrific.
like that, like just the way they go from looking at each other to touching each other, like the intimate. I mean, it was amazing. And I was like, it really delivers on, like, you really believe that these two fell in love.
Yeah. And also there's a piano scene that basically imprinted upon me and that I've written in like multiple books because
super hot. Yes. Sure. Right.
How is Richard Gere so hot? I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, there is something very daunting. I remember when I first thought I was a lot younger, obviously, and was like, he's old. And now I'm like, he's so young.
He's like younger than us, I think, in that movie. But also he's gray haired and a billionaire.
It's great.
He's not a billionaire, I don't think. I think he's like a real...
He's a millionaire.
He's a millionaire. And at the time, billionaires were like not a thing.
Right, right. Nor should they be a thing now, if we're being honest. But anyway, it was just fun to watch and kind of be like...
Well, you know the McLean core story is she rescues him right back.
Of course. Of course.
Because of Pretty Woman.
Because of Pretty Woman.
Did you know Pretty Woman was supposed to be like... Originally, it was supposed to be a Disney movie?
Interesting.
Did you know
the original title was supposed to be 3000. Did you know that?
Oh, because that's how much it costs. No, it was like I'm going to look this up now because I'm pretty sure I'm correct, and it sounds insane, and that's why I think I'm right. Like, why would I have made that up?
Sometimes I have very vivid memories of things I read in like magazines when I was, and I remember the reason I know that little factoid is like I read this profile of Julia Roberts, I think in like Elle, before the movie came out, and was kind of like, oh, I should watch that.
Okay, all right. Originally, yes, it was supposed to be a Disney movie. Walt Disney Studios greenlit it as a modern day fairy tale and love story. But it was originally written, yes, by J.F. Lawton, and it was called 3000 and ended with Vivian, and they were not the original plot was that Vivian was addicted to drugs, and part of the deal between them was that she had to stay off cocaine for a week. And then it ends originally with him throwing her out of the car and leaving her. And then she and Kit go to Disneyland. Sure. And then someone at Disney was like, okay, so yes, we love this. We love this, but let's just throw it all out. And then
it's dental floss, not cocaine, everybody.
Exactly. And then like in came Gary Marshall. What's his name?
Gary
Marshall. And he like rewrote the whole thing.
The other thing that was really interesting about watching this at the beginning is it sort of starts off with Richard Gere like driving down the Hollywood Hills in this Lotus. And they have all of these like kind of, scene shots of LA, and it was so smoggy. And like, remember how smoggy LA was? Like, you just couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And now when you see that, they sort of fixed that, but it was so very dramatic because you're like, wow, this was beautiful LA, and you could barely see anything because of the smog. So anyway, it was a good time. I enjoyed watching it, and I once again failed. My husband was like, are you watching Pretty Woman for fucking real? I was like, I can't find anything else to watch. And he was like,
yeah, don't judge me. Don't judge me. You watch football like all the time. Shut up. You guys, football, it's everywhere now.
Okay, so my husband loves fantasy sports. I'm sorry, we're just bantering, even though it's not a banter episode.
Listen, if you really enjoy this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You should join the Patreon because you get this every month.
My husband loves fantasy sports, and he And I like, and listen, no judgment, right? I have a romance novel podcast, and basically every part of my free waking hours is thinking about romance novels. So I want to be clear, I'm not judging. But he, at the end of the WNBA season, mentioned that he had 9 WA fantasy teams. And I was like, wait, if you have 9 WNBA fantasy teams, how many NFL fantasy teams do you have? And he was like, I can't even tell you. And I was like, oh, it's got to be good then. He has 50. Now, he does not actively manage 50. He said like 30 of them are you just like set it and forget it. You can never change them. And I was like...
But like, are these all with friends? Does he have 50 teams worth of friends?
No. So like, okay, 30 teams are just like random, CBS Sports or whatever. You can just do it online. But he has a lot of teams. Like he has one with his old fraternity brothers, and he has one with my brother, and he has one with, right?
What?
But like there was this huge crazy injury. A guy named Nick Chubb like had his knee kind of exploded, honestly. Mm-hmm. But my husband was literally like, shh, I've got to like fix my fantasy teams. I'm busy drafting his replacements. And I was like, okay.
I don't understand fantasy teams. I feel about fantasy football the way I feel about fantasy novels. It's too complex.
Anyway, listen, he loves it.
There I am. Listen, I'm happy for him. If this gives people joy, if you're out there and you have 50 fantasy football teams, look.
God bless.
I'm happy for you. We need to find joy wherever we can get it.
So, my reading buddy Ernie, also loves sports.
Yeah. Jack Reacher
Ernie also loves sports. And so he was like, hey, do you think Mr. Reed's Romance would help me? I have a fantasy football question. And so I was like, yeah, sure. So I hooked them up via text. They've met each other a bunch of times, right?
Now they're
they're like fantasy football texting
This is like
friends.
it's like pickup. It's like pickup basketball.
It's really cute.
But like online football.
But you know what? This is a good place to start because one of mine is a football romance. Because
one of mine is a hockey romance.
I was thinking this would maybe transition to the topic at hand.
Right.
What
vibes, which is
fall
vibes,
is football, right?
Yeah.
So I have talked at length about the Farrah Roshan series about the 3 friends.
Yes.
But the dating playbook is the one where he is a football player. Mm-hmm. Jamar Dixon. And he grew up in Katy, Texas, now famous for book banning. And that's where he was like a high school hero football player.
Also famous for Sophie Jordan, everyone. Which is better than book banning.
Yes, for sure. And he has been injured and is desperate to make it back into the NFL, but doesn't want people to know his real status. So if he goes with like a trainer that is like well known in the football world, he's worried that like that person will essentially be, not telling on him, but just like reporting about how he's really doing. So he finds Taylor Powell to be his trainer. And essentially it's like what he convinces her. This is like one of the few fake dating books that really worked for me. Is he's like, no one will know why we're together. Someone will figure out eventually. So if we pretend a fake date, no one will figure out that you're really my trainer. And her reason for going along with it is essentially that he promises her that if he gets back into the NFL, that he will tell everybody it's because of her. I mean, and having essentially like training someone back up into like fighting form for the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a really smart, great premise. And I also think it's a book, I don't know, this is probably this book has really stuck with me. I think it really deals with sort of, and I think of like Autumn, I guess this way, like he desperately wants something because he can't imagine his life without it. But everybody knows that it's really like he has to let it go. You know what I mean? It's a great book. So if you haven't read The Dating Playbook by Farrah Roshan, I think that football season vibe and the importance of football and like the rhythm of his life is really, I think it's really perfectly, beautifully done. So if you're a Autumn football fan, this would be the one for you. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Kelly Washington, author of Claiming the Heart of Wraith.
Jen, sometimes a book comes into your life and it feels like the perfect book for a perfect moment. Here we go. Our heroine, Mara, is a ex-Army combat veteran who has written a memoir, but it has flopped hard. No
Mara.
one likes it on Earth.
I'm delighted already. Tell me
Here's the
more.
thing. Ebooks live in cyberspace, and cyberspace just might be attached to real space. This is romance science. And it turns out that this memoir on Earth has been translated on another planet and is a bestseller. Such a bestseller that one night Mara gets a visit from a sexy alien prince who is so into her book that he wants to pick her up in his alien spaceship and take her back to his home planet for a book tour where she will be lauded as the greatest celebrity author of her time.
I don't understand how that's a choice. That just seems like a slam dunk of a choice.
Listen, this is perfect in every way. I did not know this was my own fantasy, but in fact it is. Thank you, Kelly Washington. Here's the deal. So Mara's like, okay, so should I just like go and live as a like celebrity author on this other planet, which is very beautiful and also comes with this like extremely hot, hunky alien prince? Or is my dumb ex-husband at home going to ruin everything like he has forever? What will happen? I am going to find out immediately after recording this.
Absolutely. If you would like to find out more about Vic and Mara and their science fiction romance, their fated mates, some maybe perhaps mistranslated memoirs into erotica, a spicy but cinnamon roll hero, and alien royalty. You absolutely, like us, would like to read Claiming the Heart of Wraith. It is available in print and ebook. And we would like to very much thank Kelly Washington for sponsoring this week's episode and bringing this joy into our life.
Doing the job, Kelly. Great job. Okay. Well, then I'll just do my sports one first, too.
Yeah.
So but I feel like I have to introduce my like, I
like
really
our
did lean
thesis.
into vibes here.
Okay.
So basically I went sweaters. Like, what books make me think of like wearing a sweater? And then I was like, what books do I want to read curled up on the couch wearing a sweater?
Or like drinking a cup of tea in front of a fire.
So look, let's be honest, like that really became for me small town romance and also historical romance. And so I don't know. I actually can only tell you if I'm not certain all of these are set in autumn, but what I can
make
tell
you feel
is
that way. Yeah.
They all make you feel just a little bit cozy.
Like you should be wearing like boots and a vest.
Yes. Like you look adorable. Because here's the thing. Summer, a lot of people look adorable in summer. I'm not one of them. But like autumn is really where I shine.
Yes, autumn's the best.
Like I think that's really where I show as well as possible.
Yeah, me too. Autumn is also okay. Here's a little
because then winter is like too much. It's too many layers.
Too much. Yeah.
My hair is always tangled up because I'm wearing a hat or scarf or something. Autumn is really that's really where we do the business.
Here's the other thing. This is like a little fun fact. I grew up around the Great Lakes in Cleveland, but I never lived as close to Lake Erie as I live to Lake Michigan. Like my house is within a mile of Lake Michigan. My school is a couple blocks from the lake. And one of the things I did not really realize is like, you say like warmer by the lake, in the fall, it stays warmer near the lakeside because this huge body of water is so warm. What they don't also say, though, is colder by the lake, right? In the spring, They do say it. And so spring is not, at least super close to the lake, is not the greatest season in Chicago. It's damp and it's cold. And you know that it's like nicer out in the suburbs than it is like right by the lakefront. But man, the fall in Chicago is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. New York fall. I mean, that's like, how many movies have been made about fall in New York?
Oh, I know, right? And then there's a great F. Scott Fitzgerald quote. I think it's actually from Gatsby, where they're coming over the bridge from Long Island, and it's fall, and it says everything is new and crisp. and that's how it feels. Fall just feels fresh and new. Anyway, I want to talk about Ruby Lang.
Oh, great.
I know
Okay.
that we have had a lot of requests for a hockey romance interstitial. I'm sorry, team. You're probably not going to get it from us, but we have talked about many hockey books over the years. So, listen to 6 seasons and eventually you'll find a hockey book in the mix. But Ruby Lang wrote a hockey book, and it's part of her Practice Perfect series, which is one character in each of the books in this series is a doctor. So the first one I talk about a lot because she's an allergist. But in this one, the heroine is a neurologist, Helen. And her father, who was a boxer, I think, is suffering from, basically had traumatic ongoing brain injuries because that's how it goes when you're a boxer.
Right.
And she, because she's a neurologist and loves her dad, is working really hard to bring more awareness to traumatic brain injuries in sports. And those happen in all sports, including hockey.
Yes.
And so she is on a mission to ban the sport of hockey from Portland.
This book is awesome. I love it. Yeah.
It feels like a very big and important mission for her. And, when we talk about conflict and we talk about if your heroine's an arsonist, your hero had better be a firefighter, or if your heroine's a firefighter, your hero better be an arsonist. If your heroine is trying to ban hockey from the city of Portland,
yes,
the hero better be a hockey player. And the hero is Adam Magnus.
Great romance name.
Come on. God. First of his name.
Right.
He is aging. He's a soon-to-be retired hockey player, and he is obviously very opposed to anybody coming for this sport that he's made a legacy in and made a lifetime in. And so they have these very public, he is the face of hockey in Portland. She is the face of, hey, everybody ought to get their brains checked in Portland. And they spar very publicly. And then privately, they are super duper into each other. And it's not great because they both have really big missions that are tough to, cannot exist alongside being a supportive partner. Ruby writes a really beautiful book. This book is very cozy in a lot of ways. For something that is taking such a big swing at something so important. You will enjoy if you are a hockey romance fan, you will enjoy the hockey pieces of it. But there is also a really cozy feel to these two because they learn pretty quickly that they really care deeply for each other.
Yeah.
And so it does that kind of really grown up thing that romance can do, where two people have to really reconcile what they want from the world and what they believe their life purpose to be, and love. And I really like it. I like that grown up feel.
Yeah, that was a great book. I love that book.
So that's Hard Knocks. It might be winter, but whatever.
It's got that vibe.
It's hockey. It's you guys, it's hockey season, so it's fine.
It's hockey season. I feel like we should talk about Scoring Off the Field by Naima Simone. I know we talk about it all the time, but if we're
oh my God,
throwing out the
it's so good though. I mean, listen,
primordial football romance.
This is the sign. You should go read this book.
Yeah, I mean, so
also we didn't mention the fact that Taylor Swift is now dating a hockey player. A football player, and that means football's back, man. I mean,
okay. I don't know who this person is that she's dating. I have no idea. I could ask my husband. Maybe.
I looked him up today. I think he's what's called a tight end. And I don't know anything about football, but great.
Fine.
Good for him. Good for Taylor.
Okay. I don't know about him, but apparently he has a brother who was also a professional football player. And last year in some large football game, they played each other, and one brother's team won, and one brother's team lost.
Oh my gosh! What did the parents do? Who
No,
roots for
listen,
whom?
there is this beautiful video. I was like moved to tears by this video. There's a guy I follow. I can't remember. I think he's the one who posted it. I'll put it in show notes. Where they show the mom going up to the one who won, and she's like so excited and like, oh my God. And he's like, Mama. And it's adorable. And then they like cut over to her going to the one who lost. And she's just hugging him. And she's like, I loved watching you play. And I was literally crying. So I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, everybody. I'm going to
I mean, that sounds amazing. Look, Jen is very emotional right now. I could tell you. I can vouch for it. Jen,
I know.
She's feeling big feeling.
I was really moved by it. So anyway, this mom seems great.
All right, cool. Listen, I support everyone and their joyful experiences with sport.
Yes. I support Tennyson Clark telling Dominic Anderson that she is leaving and no longer being his assistant, and it ruining his fucking world.
This is what I want. I want him to get the yips.
And then these two who have been friends forever just fucking make out everywhere.
Well, because she's so, you guys,
it is the best book. Every time I talk about it, I have to reread it.
It's pure, unrequited love. Tennyson loves him so much. She's been in love with him since they were 16 years old. She is obsessed with him. She is his best friend. He is her best friend. She works for him. She spends all her day just thinking about him and helping him and making his life perfect. And she cannot deal anymore.
Yes.
Like, she's like, I am ruining my life being in love with this man who will never, ever notice that I am in love with him.
Ugh.
And so she quits. And then he's like,
it destroys him.
No.
Wait.
And he is truly ruined.
God, it's amazing. Like, it is amazing. It is amazing. I want.
Here's what I want out of sports romance. This is not a sports romance episode, but we do have one on the calendar.
We do.
So maybe I'll put a pin in this.
Put a pin in it. Save it.
I'm gonna put a pin.
We're gonna have a really fun guest for that one. I'm excited.
I gotta put it on my notepad. What I want out of a sports romance, and then I won't remember when it's time.
Maybe we should make more notes. In the meantime,
well, I mean, but isn't it more fun to just fly by the seat of our pants?
Sure. No notes all the time, Jen and Sarah. I feel contractually obligated to discuss It Happened One Autumn by Lisa Kleypas.
That's on my list too. And I also have a second historical that's set in autumn. So you do that and I'll do the other one.
Well, I mean, look, the Wallflowers are a classic for a reason. And, you know, if you are a fan of St. Vincent, this is the one where he acts like a real asshole. So basically, Lillian Bowman is an American. She has come to England to find an aristocratic
She's a loudmouth.
She is a loudmouth. She's not a lady. She's bossy.
Aggressively helpful with her friends.
Oh, yeah. Like just a know-it-all. Right? In every way. And the short king, the Earl of Westcliff, Marcus.
Short king. He's not, you guys, he's like 6 feet tall instead of 10 feet tall.
He has, you know what my favorite thing about this jackass is? He has the oldest title in England. And so even though he's just an earl, he's always like the first in line because, you know, you line up by seniority at dinner or whatever. Sure. I don't know how any of this works, but I believe it entirely.
Sure. That's romance science.
It is.
I love it. I love it.
You know, Lillian and her sisters are out there like playing baseball and doing shit they shouldn't be doing. And Marcus is like, I desperately want to not love her, but boy, she's fucking great. That's the plot of It Happened One Summer. It Happened One Autumn. And then St. Vincent comes up with this crazy plan to kidnap her for her money. And, you know, Marcus has to beat the shit out of him. What's not to love about this book? How'd I do?
That's exactly right. And then she pulls off the greatest trick of anyone ever in romance, where she then makes the kidnapper, who you loathe,
into
the hero of the next book.
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's amazing.
Stop it. It's too good. It's too good. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Ava Miles, author of The Paris Roommates. This one is so cool. Ava, the author, is a former chef and now is writing a romance, a series of romances, it sounds like, set in Paris around a restaurant. So this one, the main character, Thea, is nothing at all like her romantic, elegant pastries. Her life is pretty dull, and she's spent the last 10 years trying to get back to the kind of beautiful experience that she had in one magical work-study year in Paris, working at Nanine Laurent's restaurant. But she went back after her year to the United States, and she's had kind of a dull, humdrum life for about a decade. And then she gets the call that everyone dreads. Nanine has fallen ill, and the restaurant needs Thea's help. So she goes back to Paris, where, with the help of her roommates from a decade earlier, she will help get the restaurant back on its feet. What she doesn't know is that these roommates immediately clock that Thea is in a place, and they suggest that she stay in Paris with them and live the life of her dreams there. What's even better is Mr. Pinstripes, Nanine's very hot, very skilled, very excellent lawyer who has a little bit of a thing for Thea and who immediately becomes a love interest, except then Thea gets an offer she has a lot of trouble refusing, the opportunity to open her own bakery in the United States, which means leaving her friends, leaving this rich community she's built, leaving this man she's falling in love with. And she has to decide, is she going to take a risk or go back to the world that she knows and that she thinks she's always wanted? This one sounds absolutely up your alley if you're into found family, if you're into big groups of friends in romance novels, if you're into hot lawyers, or Love in Paris, which, I mean, come on, everybody's into Love in Paris. You can find it in print, in ebook, or with a monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. And thanks to Ava Miles for sponsoring this week's episode. Okay, have you read Anne Gracie's Autumn Bride?
No?
The Autumn Bride? Jen, you would really, really enjoy this book. All right. So the heroine is a governess, and she has nothing. She has $0, except it's England, so pounds.
Of course.
Right?
Okay.
She has a sister and two best friends, so it's a quartet of girls. Well, I mean, they're not girls. They're, young women. And she's basically they are destitute and they have no choice. They are at the end. We have to figure this out or we are on the streets. So she decides, okay, I'm just going to do some light burglary.
Amazing.
So she breaks into this townhouse that seems empty. Nobody ever goes in or out of it. She breaks in and she's just I'm going to look for something that is something expensive that we can sell. I'm just going to take a silver a silver tea kettle or something. They'll probably have $25,000 in there. Nobody ever goes in there. Certainly the, Davenham, the lord of this manor, never goes in there.
Of course.
Right? She gets in there and she discovers the owner, there's an elderly woman in there and she's neglected by everyone. She's just in there sad and alone. And the heroine is what the fuck? Who would do this to a person? And so she immediately fires all of the servants in the house. There are only a few, but they're all assholes.
Sure.
And she's everybody get the fuck out. You're all terrible people. I'm in charge. I'm in charge now. Please.
Yes,
so now
we
we burgled the house, but we're in charge. And then the lady in the bed is thank God for you. You're basically a miracle worker. And now I'm going to call you and your daughter and your sister and your friends, my nieces, and basically take care of you. Now you're in society. Welcome. All this works out great until her nephew, who's the actual lord of the manor, arrives home and is like, who the heck are you? Why are you running the household and like manipulating my aunt maybe? And she's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
You're not,
You didn't
I'm not
even take care of her.
manipulating. What kind of person are you?
I love this.
Listen. It's set in the autumn. It's really nice. There's a lot of walking.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing better than a historical set in autumn because, like, England has that sort of, like, well, like a Regency or Victorian, like, it has that, like, you know, the leaves are crisp and everything's, like, like, the green fields are all turning, you know, perfect gold and they're harvesting wheat and shit. And it's
I love it.
really lovely.
Harvesting
I mean, I'll be
shit.
honest. If you read my books at all, you know I really love a book set in autumn. Like, I've written a lot of autumn books. And it's because, you know,
it's nice.
It shows well.
It's a perfect season. I love it. Okay.
So, yeah, listen, you'll really enjoy this one. It's a good one. And it's an oldie and worth the read.
That's nice. I like that. Okay. I have 2 that are set around like towns having fall festivals.
Oh, fun.
Right? Like where like you cozy on up and you like walk through the corn maze or whatever and you drink hot buttered rum, whatever.
Yeah, I'm into it. Go ahead.
Because, yeah, I was kind of thinking again, like I really struggled with this task. And then I was like, what are the things?
There's too much.
There's too many, right? But then I was like, okay, I like a fall festival and then like a couple. Now, one I have talked about pretty extensively. So I am not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. But everyone knows I love that Jeannie Chin series. And the first one's called The Inn on Sweetbriar Lane. This is the Blue Cedar Fall series. And in this one, June is the sister running like the, you know, the town's like hotel. And, you know, autumn is supposed to be the busiest season in, it's like the Carolinas. I think it's like Asheville or like near Asheville because it's, you know, fall leaves. But the local, you know, highway didn't make an exit. I don't know, whatever. So June is really determined to like get this new festival. I believe it is actually a pumpkin festival, but I don't remember off the ground. And the person kind of standing in her way, of course, he's not standing in her way. It's just like he has a different vision. His name's Clay Hawthorne. He is coming into town to open a bar. And he's like, I don't need cutesy tourists. Like, this bar is going to be for the real people in this area. So there's this like different vision they have. There's a different vision they have for like what that might look like. Okay. I love that one. And then the real sexy one I have. 3-Way Split by Elia Winters. I love this fucking book. I've talked about this one before,
yeah, we've
too.
done this one before.
And I don't care because it's worth it if you have not read it. Her name's Hannah Stewart. She has a local sex toy shop. And she ends up hooking up with these 2 guys who are roommates and lovers. His name, one is Mitchell, and I think the other one's name is Ben. And Ben and Mitchell have been like kind of friends and lovers and roommates for a long time, but they kind of like can't admit how they feel about each other. And so the fall festival kicks into gear. They are also involved in the planning of this with like the local chamber of commerce. And through the planning of this, the 3 of them actually end up getting together and somehow being with Hannah allows them to be more open and honest about their feelings for each other. And I'm really selling like the emotional stuff here, but this book is also like ghost pepper hot, and I loved it.
This is our new thing. Everyone, when we're not on the podcast, we're like, we don't trust anybody who tells us a book is hot.
No.
Anymore.
But so you can trust me. There's a
ghost
sex
pepper
wing.
hot. When Jen says it, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's on.
It's on.
And I feel like when I say it too, it's on.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we know what we're looking for here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got that real pleasant, like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I got to talk about Jill Shalvis again.
Okay. Sure.
I only ever trot Jill out when we do, like, Small Town or,
Yeah.
Homecoming or whatever, because she nails small town romance so well. Lucky Harbor, I've been thinking a lot about like maybe just like over the next couple of weeks, just reading all the Lucky Harbor books again, because they just deliver. It's like, you get it right over the plate. Like, not to put too fine of a sports metaphor on things, but like they're just great.
Yes.
So He's So Fine is Lucky Harbor book 11, and you don't have to read these in order at all. Everyone, Lucky Harbor is a romance town.
Sure.
It has everything that you need in a romance town, including a new vintage shop, which is run by the heroine, Olivia, who has like come to this town fairly recently, but she has this like secret, which is that when she was very young, she was a starlet, a Hollywood starlet who like made a huge fool of herself in front of the whole wide world. Like, so think like, or maybe not even like a huge fool of herself, but like was a kid, like think Lindsay Lohan or like Drew Barrymore, like just somebody who like really was growing up in front of the whole world and made mistakes that normal teenagers make. And then like, but because she was a starlet, everybody was staring at her all the time. Mm-hmm. So she's like basically put all that behind her. She's assumed a new name, a new identity. I love this shit. And she goes to Lucky Harbor and she basically is like, I'm not going to make friends there. I'm just going to like be the person who runs the vintage shop in this like homey town and just like try to live my life in peace. And this all works out fine until the very first page of this book, where Cole Donovan, who is a ship's captain,
I like it,
a charter boat captain with his like two other hot friends. They run a like charter boat business,
as it should be. I mean, it's a romance town.
Listen. Cole accidentally, he's working on the boat and he's super duper horny, Jen. He hasn't been laid in a long time. And he is like kind of distracted by stuff. And then he like isn't paying close attention and he falls into the water. And it's freaking freezing, this water, because it's the middle of October or whatever. Sure. And it's the Pacific Northwest, so it's always cold. And Olivia sees him and thinks he's drowning. So she goes into the water after him to save him, not knowing he is a boat captain.
Sure, of course.
And not in fear of drowning at all. Cole comes with all his own damage. There's actually a really lovely backstory for him. He has PTSD from working on an oil rig that exploded, and like he lost a friend during that explosion, and he has a lot of guilt related to it. And he also doesn't want to get super close to anyone, but of course, when you have two people who definitely don't want to get close to anyone, and one of them is a horny ship's captain.
Sure.
What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Let me tell you, if you're Jill Shalvis, you're going to write it hot, and you're going to write it great.
Amazing.
So that's He's So Fine, a Lucky Harbor novel. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Avon Books, publishers of Nisha Sharma's Tastes Like Shakar, the second in her If Shakespeare Was an Auntie series.
This series is so fun, and everybody knows that there is probably nothing that ramps up the family drama like a wedding.
Oh. Very true. Can confirm.
Yeah. And now you add two people who really have like something to prove at that wedding. And one of them is Bobby Core. It is her best friend's wedding. So, I mean, obviously the stakes are super high, but she is also trying to prove to her family that she is the perfect person to take over their event planning business. So she's really got to nail this wedding and get it totally right. Mm-hmm. The other person, though, that she's being forced to work with is a sexy chef. She can admit that he's handsome. Bunty Pata. He is the best friend of the groom. And that does not change the fact, sexy or not, that he is egotistical and irritating and the one in charge of the menu. And what does a wedding planner have to do? Work with the guy planning the menu. These two figure out that someone's trying to sabotage the wedding. And so for all of the wedding events, which includes the joint bachelorette trip to Vegas, right? Planning everything at the vineyard and trying to deal with a bunch of aunties who think that they have the hard line on all the information and could probably work at the CIA.
Everybody is skulking around and no one is good at it.
Right.
It's keeping secrets.
So Bobby and Bunty's romance is an event you don't want to miss, even though the main event, of course, is supposed to be this wedding. I love a romance set against a wedding. I just think they're so fun.
And even better, this is the wedding of Karina and Prem, who were the hero and heroine of Dating Dr. Dill. So
exactly.
It's old home week in this book too.
Which is the best. You can get Tastes Like Shakar in print or ebook wherever books are sold.
Thank you so much to Avon Books for sponsoring this week's episode.
Okay, I will admit, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm literally just going to search like pumpkin romances and see what comes my way.
Did you get Pumpkin Pounder?
No. I mean, that's
not part of the brief.
Too much Halloween.
Correct.
But there is a book it's a 2-book series. I read Maple Sugar Crush, an Autumnboro romance. This author is named Beth Labonte. These are like closed door romances. It's really cute though. So I'm sorry.
It's allowed. It's fine.
It is. I'm just like, I feel like I'm going from It's 5 Ghost Peppers to like, you know, it's all in the title. Maple Sugar Crush. We've talked about winning the lottery before. That's what really drew me to this one. So Josie Morgan is like 30. 5 years ago, she won the Powerball. And we're talking $450 million, the Powerball. And this has really hampered her love life because everyone's just after her money. And the book actually starts out, she's at Thanksgiving. And, you know, it's like really interesting because she, you know, like did what you would do. Like, here's what you should do if you win $450 million in the Powerball. You go to a financial planner so that you do not like spend it all. And she like bought her parents a house so that they could retire. And it's like right on Cape Cod. She paid off all the debts of her kind of immediate family and then gave them enough money that if they were smart and invested it, they could live their whole lives on it. But these people were not smart and did not do that. So she's at Thanksgiving and people are kind of giving her a hard time. Like, why won't you give me more money? And she's just, everybody is constantly after her money and it just sucks. So she lives in Autumnboro, New Hampshire, and she runs a store called Pumpkin Everything. And people are like, why do you even work? And she's like, I'm 30 years old. What the fuck else am I going to do?
Yeah. Oh my God. I would totally like run a store called Pumpkin Everything. I mean, like, she doesn't really work. She runs a store that she's obsessed, where she's clearly obsessed with pumpkins.
Well, it's funny because now she bought the store and she's like thinking about incorporating some Christmas stuff. And everyone's like, oh, it's Pumpkin Everything. You know what I mean? It's all very cute. So anyway, she decides that this year she's going to avoid Thanksgiving because it was such a pain in the ass last year. And instead, she's going to hold essentially a Thanksgiving meal for everyone in town that doesn't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving. Right? So she's like using her money in lots of like really good and interesting ways, but she's really afraid of like falling in love. Well, then along comes Riley, who I think she lives in Autumnsboro and I think he lives in Summersboro. This is all very cute. This is like, I believe the first book in the series, which is called Pumpkin Everything.
So cute.
Is actually made into a Hallmark movie. So that's the vibes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So cute.
This is the vibes. Riley Parker essentially is, her mom's coming and she's like, oh my God, I can't take the matchmaking. Her mom's like, who cares if they want your money? Don't you want to be married and have kids? So she convinces Riley to be her fake date so that he can like fend off the suitors. It's great. It's super cute. I liked it. Maple Sugar Crush is the name of that one.
Okay, I want to talk about Taming Teddy by Lucy Lennox. So this one it's very sweet. I mean, it's very hot, but it's also very sweet. So this is set in Alaska, and the main character, Teddy, is a wildlife photographer. And he has basically promised that he would get photographs of this particular guy, this particular wildlife expert, for like a magazine that he's working for. And so Jamie, the wildlife expert, instantly like begins with a series of letters. Everyone knows I love letters. And basically he's like, so sorry, but no, I don't do media. But he's like kind of known as this like animal whisperer out in like the wilds of Alaska. And so Teddy, is like, how do I get him to agree to do this? So he fakes, like wounded peregrine falcon.
Sure.
And so he's like, I was on this trek in the Australian outback or whatever, and we found this wounded falcon, and I wonder if you could help us like figure out what to do with it. And sure enough, like this, like, is the perfect bait for Jamie to respond to him. And so they have this back and forth. And like one of my very favorite things, and this is right at the beginning of the book, but like Jamie clocks very early that like Teddy has made up this falcon, and he says there wasn't really a bird, and Teddy's like, no, there totally was, and he sends a picture of a falcon that he took like years ago, and Jamie's response is, that's not a falcon, it's a like something else. And it's so funny and like very sweet, very funny. And so what actually ends up happening is Jamie says, yes, yes, you can come out to Alaska, and like I'll take you to photograph like Alaskan, right? I don't know, shit,
whatever. Yeah.
And so this happens, and they they have this like very intense like one night thing or like multiple night thing, but like quick. It's like, This is not going to happen. Teddy travels the world taking pictures of animals, and Jamie is, a recluse, and so this can't happen. And then there's a snowstorm. And so I did say I didn't want to do snowed in, but I feel like Alaskan snow, like first snow in Alaska is basically fall vibes for everyone else. Sure. So, and then they're like stuck in this snowstorm, and it's just the two of them falling in love, and it's very cozy, and they do wear sweaters, but they also don't wear sweaters, if you know what I mean.
I do,
and I think you do.
Better 6 years into this podcast. If I don't get that, you're cut.
So that's Taming Teddy by Lucy Lennox.
Great. Okay, here's my last one, everyone. A couple weeks ago, I talked about, it's called Fever. I had the wrong title. Someone's like, Jen, it's called Fever on the Discord. Thank you.
Thank you, Discord.
And this book has had fall vibes in my brain forever. So when we decided to do this, I was like, I'm going to go back and reread this Elizabeth Wool book. Because basically there was this whole thing, I'm going to like go backwards, in the book where she's in some meadow on his land in Utah. And at the end, summer is coming to a close because the aspens are changing their leaves. Like, this was like a very dramatic thing to me. I vividly remember it because I was like, what the fuck is an aspen tree? This is not something that you have where I grew up. I was like, and I just don't even recognize trees. I mean,
is that true? I'm going to Google it, an aspen tree.
If you were like, what is this tree? I'd be like, I don't fucking know. I have no tree
knowledge. Oh yeah, they look like birch trees. Yeah, they have like white.
Sure, they look like birch trees. Good talk. Okay, anyway, I don't remember or know what trees look like, but this book really leaned hard into the aspens are changing, and this is how the seasons are changing. And I really remember this very vividly. So the deal with this book is, her name's Lisa. His name's Rye McCall, and he is your typical Elizabeth Wool hero. Everybody is after my money. Women can't be trusted.
Women are terrible.
They're all gold diggers.
Women are terrible is Elizabeth Wool's core story.
Yes, right? For all her heroes.
But also, they should sew bells to their clothing and wander around.
Amazing. So he has this pristine part of his land that some university professor has been using to study seedlings, whatever, nature. And she is essentially the graduate student at work that summer who's going to be up there, like, taking pictures of the plants and, like, doing science. But she has this really interesting background. She's grown up all around the world. Her parents were anthropologists. So she's like lived all over the world, but never in America. And she's like kind of marriageable age now. And her parents are like, go marry some scientist so you can have, go marry somebody, whatever. So she is living up in this shack and he comes up and like this shit's intense. She sees him for the first time and it's literally like she sees him, her eyes, and she thinks she was born to be this man's woman.
God, Elizabeth Lowell.
Right into my fucking veins, right?
It's just too much. It's so good. It's so good. But also, like, if I wrote that, everybody would be like, come on, McLean.
It doesn't matter.
Only Elizabeth Lowell can do it.
Only Elizabeth Lowell. So he introduces himself as Rye, and she, and then he realizes that she does not know that he is the same as, like, Boss McCall, right? So she just thinks he's a cowboy and does not know that he actually owns the whole fucking ranch. So then the whole summer goes by. They have this amazing affair. Nobody tells her because he's like, don't fucking tell. Nobody can tell. This is just my thing with her. And she, because she's like so young and innocent and has never been in society and never goes down to the ranch, she has no idea. And then there's going to be like a big dance, which cracks me up now. I'm like, what is this, prom? But whatever. It's like all the locals are going to go to the dance. And
there's always a dance in those old ones.
And he doesn't ask her. And she thinks it's because he is too ashamed of the fact that he does not have clothes, like a nice shirt.
Oh my God.
So she makes him a shirt out of like the wedding linens her mother like sent with her. Like, you'll make your wedding dress out of this cloth. And she like hand polishes the buttons that she cuts out of antelope fucking horns. I do not even know.
Sure.
So then she rides down and she's like, I'm going to actually go. I hope I don't get in trouble with the boss, but I have to see Rye so I can give him a shirt and then he'll be able to ask me to the dance. And it is while she's like giving him the shirt that someone calls out his name, hey boss, and he answers and she is like, holy shit, he is the boss. And the
so embarrassed.
Comes crashing down on her. And I have to tell you, listen, Elizabeth Lowell knows how to deliver. And so it's just this really emotional thing. And she like grabs the bag and rides off. And he's like, what was in the bag? And she's like, nothing you need. And you think she's going to take off right away.
I want my sweater.
She like has her, exactly. She has her pride. She shows up at the dance. The drama. And then,
so good.
Oh my God. It's amazing. Listen.
And then he has to crawl on broken glass to win her because he has lied to her about
I will admit, I do not think he crawled on broken glass enough, but I still was really fucking won over by this thing. She leaves. He's devastated. He has to ride on his horse to go get her.
Perfection. No notes.
Then he wears the shirt on their wedding day. I'm giving it all
away. Of
course
he does, because it's made of the wedding material.
And then it says every year after on their anniversary, he wears the shirt. And I was like, I'm done. A+. Completely
so
fell for it.
cheesy.
This man never gained an ounce. He was still able to wear that shirt his entire life. Fine.
Perfect.
I loved it.
Cheesiest, but I don't care. Eat it. I'm going to eat it with a spoon. Amazing. That was a ride, and I really enjoyed it.
Fever by Elizabeth.
By none other than the great Elizabeth Lowell. Okay, you know what else happens in autumn? Election season, Jen.
Yes.
So I know I've talked about this one before, but I don't think I've talked about it in a while. So I want to talk about Loving the Secret Billionaire by Adriana Anders.
The only election romance I ever really want to read, to be honest.
Because it's terrific. The heroine of this book is running for mayor of a mountain town somewhere in the world. I don't even know. In romance land. Her name is Veronica. And she is canvassing the town because she is running against like a kind of like terrible person who, whatever, is just terrible. And they are trying to get every single vote out for this mayoral election. And so she is like, I'm gonna make me every single person. So she's canvassing in the same place. They're like out on the outskirts of town. She's canvassing and she discovers that he too, the enemy, the villain, the other guy, is also canvassing. And she's like, there's one more house on this street and I'm going to get to it before him. And it's like down a long road. It's like a very sort of like, what's down this
Yeah.
It's a dark house. Like,
Oh, yeah.
So she gets to the door. She knocks on the door. It opens. It is like fully pitch black inside. And the owner of the house is there. And she's like, you have to let me in, because the other guy is like coming down the driveway behind her. And he's like, what? And she comes in and it turns out that she's inside the home of the hero, Zach, who is blind, but also a billionaire and also a virgin.
Sure.
And all of these things are fascinating. And so she's like, do you have lights? And he's like, I actually don't have lights because I don't need them. And she's like, oh, I'm, okay. And then he's like, but let's get some lights. Let's order some lights online. We'll have some lights here for tomorrow. And you should come back when there are lights and we'll like have dinner. And she's like, okay. And then it turns out that like he's a virgin, but he's not really a virgin.
And he can't drive. Sorry. You're a virgin. You can't drive. Sorry.
He's not really a virgin. Take this seriously, Jen. It's
I'm sorry.
He's not like, he's a virgin, but like he is also a tech genius. And so he has done all the research necessary to be able to be like the greatest lover who ever there was,
sure.
Even though like he never leaves the house. He's a recluse. And so like he can't leave the house and have sex with somebody. So but he's learned a lot about it. And then when Veronica turns up, he's like, well, this works out great for me. And then he's also a tech genius / billionaire, which comes into play when he, kind of like makes sure that the election swings in her favor. He doesn't rig the election, but he finds out some information because he's so like tech savvy about her opponent that like swings the election. And she's like, you kind of cheated. Like you really, did something that you shouldn't have done.
Right.
Like and he's like, whatever, I'm a billionaire. What do you want from me? And also like, why don't we just do it again? And she's like, okay.
I mean, I guess.
Listen, I think Adriana Anders is a really top-notch writer. Yeah. This is a novella that it will give you like the greatest 45 minutes of your life. Like it is a terrifically fun read. When you're done with this, you can go and read the other 2 books in the series, which are also both kind of like fall into winter novellas. One is called Loving the Mountain Man and one is called Loving the Wounded Warrior. And Adriana writes a very sexy, like very, very emotionally sexy, brain sexy book. You're gonna be very happy with this
it's like
choice.
Skipping ahead, but if you're ready to just jump right to the winter holidays, she's got that one called We'll Never Have Paris, where the 2 literally get stuck in an elevator on Christmas Eve.
Is that out?
I think so.
I was going to talk about it on our Christmas episode.
Yeah, we'll just save it, everybody. We'll just save it for next time.
Pretend we didn't say that, you guys.
Well, it's Eric to take it out. We didn't say anything.
He won't. Somebody told me the other day, I love it when there are these moments in the podcast where you say, Eric should take that out. We'll take that out. And we know he didn't.
Sometimes he's just like, no, we're leaving that. It's
he
fine.
Doesn't. He's not. He's like, these 2 are dummies. They know. It's not out yet. It's out September 29th. Oh, which means it's out.
Well, I don't know. How do we do?
I think that was really nice.
I think it was nice.
Pour yourself a cup of cocoa.
Yes, sit in front of a fire.
Put on a cable knit sweater and cozy socks. Cozy socks.
That's nice.
It's autumn. The solstice is past. The autumn equinox or whatever it's called.
It's true.
And it's Libra season.
It is. My time is about to come.
Your time is nigh. It's Libra season, which means the world returns to balance.
Well, that's nice.
That's what Libra season, it balances out everything.
I like it.
And what's weird is like, I literally yesterday was talking to Eric and I was like, of course, it's Libra season. And he was like, oh my God. But it is Libra season and things balance themselves right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop coughing.
That is what I have to say about that is astrology with Sarah. There you go. You're listening to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop. You can find us at fatedmates.net or at our Patreon if you like super love us talking about astrology or banter or football. We do that every month at fatedmates.net/Patreon. Also, with the Patreon, you get access to our Discord where many, many, many other magnificent Firebirds talk about romance novels almost as much as we do. You can also find us on Twitter at Fated Mates, on Instagram at Fated Mates Pod, and in other places, but really sporadically at this point. So why don't we stick with that? And we hope you're having a great time and you're cozy and it's, you know, it's you're just vibing. You're having sweater vibes wherever you are.
Yes, agreed.
Thanks for listening.